Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Old Ladies Lift Chat. I am one of your hosts, Larnie Mulvey.
And I'm Chandler Mars, and we're here today with Tommye Arnold, a world record holding power lifter at the age of 60, and the owner of Perfect Storm Hardcore Training Gym in Daytona Beach, Florida. Hi, Tommye. How are you today?
Pretty good.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to have 600 pounds on your back. But before we do that, let's talk about how you got into powerlifting.
So I was a tennis player who switched over to bodybuilding, mainly to get my husband back into town. And then just, the diet and everything for bodybuilding is brutal and not fun. It's a 24/7 portion of the sport. And I have tremendous respect for anyone that can stay with it. I made it about 10 years. Was getting ready for Masters Nationals, miserable. And my coach, who's been my coach for the entire 7 years, came in to train someone else. And just watching it, I was like, I think I want to do that. And I switched on my 53rd birthday.
Wow. That's impressive. So you've been in bodybuilding for, what did you say, 10 years now?
Yeah, it was about 10 years before that.
And then
so 7 years now powerlifting.
Oh, so we're at 17 years. That's
Wow.
some duration, particularly as women get older, and all the myths that we are busting, about what we can and cannot do. 17 years in the lifting arena.
Oh, and really didn't take it up till 43. So I was already in Old Ladies That Lift when I took it up.
That's when I started. I started powerlifting at 43. And now I'm doing strongman at 47.
See,
Yeah.
it's fun. I actually have signed up twice now for pseudo strongman meets that then didn't get pulled off.
Oh. How do you
They both got canceled.
Oh.
So let's talk about, so certainly diet in the bodybuilding is difficult because of the you have to reduce and to dry everything out and show the muscles. But you had a fair amount of muscle building capacity behind you before you started powerlifting. So when we spoke last, we talked a little bit about how long it took you to what your deadlift numbers and your squat numbers and all that were prior to switching to powerlifting. Can you kind of go over that?
So squat was the one lift that making the switch, I thought it would be awful. I had about a 225 squat. It was certainly not to anything considered powerlifting depth. You just do a different bodybuilding. And I really didn't think I could make depth. I was like, I don't think my body will go there. I had a good bench. My bench actually was stronger bodybuilding than powerlifting. I had a 2-plate bench back then, and now I struggle for 1 plate raw. And in gear, it's about a 2-plate bench if I'm lucky. It's a good day. That has a lot to do with injuries. Deadlift was the one that intrigued me the most. I knocked right on the door of 300 for, it seemed like the entire time I was bodybuilding, and just couldn't get there. And it was my obsession. I wanted a 3-plate deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
And that came in my first meet. So that was
Powerlifting meet?
First powerlifting meet, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and I hadn't pulled it in the gym. It was one of those where I don't remember what we opened at, but somewhere in the mid to higher 2s. And I ended up pulling 336, and it was just like, where did that come from?
Wow. And so when you went to that and you're now powerlifting, initially I recall you started lifting raw.
Yes.
And then because of some injuries, ended up in geared. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yep. I did my first 3 meets raw. We had a couple of guys in the gym they're a little younger than me. They're early 50s now. And they wanted us to all do an APF meet because APF Nationals and APF Worlds was going to be in Florida that year. So they're like, we can just do everything here in Florida. Turned out APF considers if you wear sleeves or wraps, it's equipped for their nationals. Makes zero sense. You had to really be naked knee to be in Raw. So I ended up going to equipped nationals that year, but it was to lift Raw. But right before Worlds, literally 2 weeks out, I woke up one morning and could not feel my right arm. And it was that type of thing where you feel like it's asleep. And you're like, oh, it'll wake up. So I get moving. Well, it did not wake up. And it was old neck injuries that came back to haunt me. And I ended up, I did Worlds. I finished the bar with collars on it. I actually pulled a deadlift PR and squat. I think I got one squat. And it was one of those where it was, thank goodness I got one.
Yeah.
But after that, I met some lifters there who were from Minnesota. And he had a similar neck injury and done stem cell treatments up there and all with the guy. And I ended up doing that. I somewhat question, would it have come back anyway? Probably wouldn't come back as quick. But in just trying to get back, enthused about it again, I asked my coach, one night when literally I'm in a hotel room traveling for work and couldn't move. What did he think if I took to equipped lifting? And I'm thinking he's going to tell me I'm crazy. I'm just, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, definitely. And so I actually posted it today because today is the 5-year anniversary. It popped up in my memories on Facebook of the first squat that I took in gear. And it was actually my first equipped lift. It was to a box, and I think it was 195 if I'm looking at the sides correctly. It was not a lot of weight.
But since then, I mean, now we know that your squats are massive at this point. So in the 7 years that you went from, perhaps 2 plates for maybe a 3/4 squat for bodybuilding. To the injury to geared, you're now at, you said you've listed over 600 at this point.
So in the gym, I've done 606. Meet 540 is my best.
Yeah. So either way, it's an astronomical amount of weight.
Those are great numbers. Those are great numbers.
And this is 17 years in. So mind you, this is not something that happened overnight, but that's still remarkable given your age. Our age, what women have been told to lift, the little pink dumbbells.
Yep.
and what you're doing. And it shows that time is not necessarily the enemy in this case. It's the lack of activity that's the enemy.
Yes. So, and I put in my post that I did today on the gear. When I switched, I wasn't thinking about it from a standpoint of it would make things easier. It was just going to be a different challenge. And some of it, I think in my head, I was going, I'll never get my old raw numbers. So let me jump to the side of the sport where I don't have any numbers. So, everything will be a PR and,
right?
what have you. And what I didn't really give enough attention to was raw lifting is strength first and then technique. So you can muscle through a raw squat. You're coming up and, if you're good at grinding, you can get it even when your positioning wasn't great. Equipped lifting, it's really the technique first and the strength second. So there's no grinding, or very few can successfully grind equipped squat. So in some ways, I think I have patience being older to pay more attention to that technique than maybe if I'd taken it up in my 20s. And it made me realize that if I perfected my technique, I could be competitive with younger athletes that hadn't perfected their technique. And I have my coach is known as a technician. He's one of the top male lifters in the lift world. And so he was the perfect person to learn from, as well as he's really into rehab, prehab, mobility, I spent this last Sunday was going to be a heavy squat day, and the first one since November, really, and the first one in squats since November, or in routes since November. I went to the gym an hour and a half early to do my mobility and make sure everything was moving right.
I was just about to ask you that, like how, for me, like when I warm up, it takes like 20, 25 minutes. And how do you like structure your warm up?
So I start with testing. So if it's lower body, for instance, I'll test laying on my back, the single leg up. How does it feel? What's stopping me from getting, straight up? If it's upper body, it's usually the overhead arm test. And it's usually, and I can almost predict it at this point. Lower leg, it's going to be my right one, and it's going to be my calf is so tight that I start getting that nervy feeling like something's getting pulled wrong. The left leg is going to be hamstring in all likelihood, or it's going to be fine. The left leg doesn't tend to be as problematic. And the upper, it's going to be my left side, and it's going to be the lats tight, and I got to work on it. But I still test it just in case it's a surprise day, because there's days it'll be a bicep tendon or something that I'll feel. So I try and address it first, whether it's releasing it with a foam roller by rolling on it, or a lacrosse ball, or I feel like it needs activating, so I do some isometrics. And then I go into more of just my standard, I always do them. I think some of my I always do them, I can probably drop, but it's that feeling of, well, what if it's the linchpin holding it all together? I'll just take my time and do them. And occasionally I'll drop one, but I am bad about just continuing to pile them on. And I don't tag. There are days I cut it, I won't say short, I still do them, but maybe won't spend as much time on them because it's going to be a lighter day or it's a weekday and I've worked all day. So I can do it faster than I did on Sunday.
So it's still
when I know it's a particularly big lift and it's been a while, I'll take the time on it.
And that time is usually, you said, an hour and a half before
So
you get under the bar?
This past week was an hour and a half.
Okay.
And there's I run the gym, so I mean, I get there and there's going to be questions and a cooler that needs stocked and all. So I mean, I got there at 10:30. We started at noon.
Okay.
Was it all mobility? No, but was probably at least an hour of it. Yes. Other weekdays, I'll get there an hour early and maybe 30 to 45 minutes of it will be spent on the mobility and the other just getting things going. Upper body, it's not as long, even though upper body is where more of my problems are. It's just, there's less impacted in some ways. I don't need to worry on bench. As long as my hip mobility is good enough to get my feet to the floor and what have you, I don't have to worry about a lot of it. So the upper body, it's usually the shoulders and the bicep. And so working on them, maybe getting some pec activation.
And so if you're going to go a super heavy squat that day, what's your progression look like once you get under the bar?
I will do the empty bar until the empty bar feels and looks good. So I film every set. So there's times where I'll be like, oh, that felt pretty good. And then I'll go watch it and I'm shifted all the way to the right and then coming back to the left.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what am I doing now? So I'll go and release the TFL or whatever it is. It seems to be impacting it. And I'll keep doing it. So this past week, it was 3 empty bar sets before I went up. Then I put a quarter on it. I'll do it raw. I'll put a plate on it, do it raw. Depending on how I'm feeling or where I am in prep, I might go ahead and put a plate quarter raw, but a lot of times I'll just throw 2 plates on and put on my briefs. So I'll do a set of briefs at 225. Well, the bar 245. Usually for
You're doing
3
a
to
60
5 reps, maybe. I'm sorry.
Are you using a 60-pound bar?
66.
Oh,
So the
okay.
Sportscraft 30-kilo bar.
Wow.
So when I use a straight bar. So we do switch up bars a lot just because of bicep tendons and stuff. So
Okay.
I'll use cambers and buffaloes, and they're all different weights. But this was a straight weight week. I'll do the 2 plates. I'll jump to 3 plates, still in the briefs. And then depending on how it feels, I might do a 3-plate quarter still in the brief, or I'll just throw on the suit and go to 4 plates. And then from there, usually I'll do 4 plates and a quarter. And at that point, we start getting into the, well, how's the body feeling and what's going to lag? So this past weekend, I went to 545. I wasn't making depth where I wanted it. So we dropped it back to, I think, 4 plates and a quarter, and did a couple of just back down sets there, trying to work on the depth.
Well, that's impressive. So how long, once you get to the bar and you start squatting, how long is that portion of your workout?
So we train as a group on Sundays.
Okay.
And so it depends on how many are
How many
on my
people are
monitor.
there?
But probably you're looking at 2 hours.
Just of bar work. That's impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, there's good breaks because
There's
a lot of us are in gear, and
Yeah.
you know, we spot each other, we change weights out. So I mean, I'll have men on my mono that might be my coach is going up to 1,000 pounds.
Oh,
Plus
goodness.
a lot of plates
wow.
coming on and off of the bar.
That's a good workout in and of itself, is just changing the
Taking
voice.
all the weight. Yeah.
Wow. So
Tommye,
you're-
do you start, sorry,
Go
Jalen,
ahead.
do you start with briefs first and then you put on your
Yes.
full suit? Okay.
Yeah, so until when I'm in off season or early in prep for a meet, I'll only lift in the briefs. I won't put the suit on. I'm now getting far enough in that last weekend was, I think, the 3rd week that I put on the suit over the briefs, and it was the first one I'd added the wraps in.
Oh, so you put them over your briefs. Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's a lot of layers of material. It was particularly tight this past weekend. And the tighter it is, the more weight it takes to get you down. And my brain was not prepared for this, because I think to have gotten depth easily, it was going to take more than the 545. But 545 was the highest I've been in since November.
Wow. So how frequently do you squat heavy?
Heavies,
Relative.
so this type of heavy, usually I'm 6 weeks out now from my meet.
Okay.
And somewhere around week 8, we'll start, doing the full, we call it full kit. And we'll go pretty heavy every other week, usually. And after this week, so I squatted last weekend and I squat again this weekend with reverse band. That's a bit unusual. Usually it would be a deadlift week. But I decided next weekend I'm doing a push-pull.
Oh, you entered a meet?
Yeah, I'm going to do a meet 5 weeks before my other meet.
Oh my
Coach is
God.
thrilled about that.
Only push-pull, and I have a friend who's doing it, and I was like, well, it's my heavy deadlift weekend. I miscalculated. It was not my heavy deadlift. But I just flipped things around.
You adjusted.
Yeah, I adjusted. And so it'll be my heavy deadlift weekend. And I'm going to do bench mainly to just get more practice on the platform bench. It's the one lift that mentally is my weakest lift in the gym too. But particularly when I get on the platform, it just really like taking the time I need to do the setup, and I'll rush things. And I know I am, and I'm still rushing them. So I figure more platform practice is good practice.
Right. That's how when I couldn't when I had my Achilles tear and I did my bench only meet, I learned to love bench because of I started to understand how things connected and what my body's supposed to feel like. And when I am with you with that, like getting onto the platform to do it. it actually felt like, hey, this is how it's supposed to feel, and everything felt good, and I was so excited for that. So I'm glad that you're getting practice, because I think it's a great.
Yeah.
Everyone hates it. Everyone's like, oh my god, it's like such a weak lift. I'm like, but it's so good for you.
Yeah, I did it December. I did WPO in November, and I did a push pull the first weekend in December. So in that case, I did it like a month after instead of a month before, and it was just fun. It was like I didn't put any pressure on myself. There wasn't a squat coming out of the gate. By the time that they got to bench, everything was flowing, and it just felt good, and
Good.
probably was the most fun meet I've had.
Yeah, that's good. So after you've lifted whatever insane amount of weight, what does your recovery look like, and how long does it take you to recover from having 500 pounds on your back?
So I'm lucky in the sense that, and I think this came from bodybuilding. I don't get sore, or it's very unusual for me to get
Must
sore.
be nice.
Um,
It must be.
so,
So I stand here with a screaming QL.
but
Same, Chandler.
what I do get bad is I get bad cramps, and QL is one thing that will cramp on me in a heartbeat bench.
Yeah, mine does too on the bench. It does on the bench, and I have learned recently on the deadlift. So
Yes,
it's
me
my
too.
left QL that is always the problem. And when I deadlift with my left hand as overhand, which is my strongest position, the QL goes crazy. But I can lift heavier. When I flip the grip with the left hand underhanded, I don't have nearly as much pain in that left QL, but I can't lift nearly as much weight. And I've been doing the reverse grip, my reverse grip, for now months now, but it's still not nearly as strong. So there's a different muscle activation pattern. But it does spare the left QL.
Yes. So have you tried hook grip?
Excuse me?
Have you tried hook grip?
Hook grip? I hate hook grip, yes.
On a deadlift?
On a deadlift,
on the
yes.
deadlift?
Many people
Yes.
do hook grip on a deadlift, yes.
Yeah, I hook grip my deadlift, and it's
Seriously?
yeah.
Oh, that's insane.
I mean, you're gonna have to do like a video on how to do that.
Oh,
Can't do
so
that.
my coach is big on hook grip, and I tried it and I got up to like 200 pounds and it just about killed me. But just because of the thumbs, yeah, and I was like, ugh. But yes, I can imagine that. But no, but see, the left hand would still be over.
Oh, so it's your over, it's not your.
It's my over that's the problem. When it's under, it doesn't bother me at all, but it's weaker when it's under.
So what it makes me like think without seeing is it's probably the shoulder, how the shoulders sit.
Probably.
And
This one's all
yeah, my husband
rotator cuff.
was a mixed grip guy.
Yeah.
And so he's got one shoulder that's way forward and he's got one shoulder that's way back. And if he'll get similar type of back things. And I think it's just like a pattern he's gotten stuck in.
Maybe, except for if you have well, maybe it's just because of the left. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're talking about you today. I'm just commenting that my QL is screaming, and when my left QL screams, that means my right SI goes out. So it's just like
it just needed to join the party.
It joins the party, sends little nerve shots down my leg. It's just it's a happy experience. But nevertheless, you recover. How do you do that?
So
magical.
So recovery, like I said, the soreness I don't get so much, but I do get, the tweaks. Bicep tendon will give me trouble. I've got a left collarbone that just, there's some nerve or muscle that runs right through here that just will feel like it's on fire.
Wow. Jaw. That could be jaw.
So yeah, so I have jaw issues. And they'll work the scalenes a lot and all.
Yeah.
So I do get body work. Every Friday, my coach will work on me, and once a month, instead of having him work on me, I'll drive to Orlando, which is a little over an hour away, and see a bodywork guy that's just extremely good. So I commit to that weekly.
Okay.
My diet, it's not great, but I do give some thought to it, to try and make sure that I'm getting, them properly hydrated in particular. Because I have a bad habit. If left on my own, I'll just drink coffee and Monsters all day. So I make sure I get my water, and I put some LMT in it, and just stay hydrated. I try and make sure that, probably the 80-20 rule. 80% of my diet's pretty good, and 20% I just eat whatever I want. Which was really nice coming out of bodybuilding.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. It took me a little while to understand that I could actually eat it. And once I started eating more, I actually started losing weight.
So
Yeah.
you started eating more? Is that what you just said?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes effort though, doesn't it? To eat.
It does. And especially if you're trying to eat clean.
Yeah.
So to eat a sufficient amount clean, it's pricey, but two, it's just a lot of volume you're trying to gain.
And it's a lot of chicken, which is absolutely.
There's a lot of chicken or fish or lean burger. So I let myself have the ice cream and the cookies and the brownies, things to get me some extra calories. And go out and I'll go out. We go to Mexican frequently.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not the healthiest foods usually.
Oh no, but who can do without some chips and salsa?
Yeah, chips and salsa and guac.
You don't need anything else. I mean, forget the rest of
the rest of the food's good, but
it's just
that stuff's the best.
Fresh tortilla chips. Oh my goodness. That is my
a margarita with it, and life is good.
Life is good, really. I agree with you. Doesn't take much. So that's your squat, and we talked a little bit about your bench. How's your deadlift doing?
So deadlift, it took a while. Here, it's probably the lift you get the least out of. So it takes longer to kind of figure it out. I have gotten it up to in the gym 500. That's my goal in a meet. 474 is my best in a meet right now. I sumo, and I stayed away from conventional for a long time because of lumbar issues. I just knew conventional was going to kill them. Somewhere about 2 years ago, I was like, I can't even remember what made me, but I pushed conventional one day and it was fine. Nothing happened, back didn't go out. And since then, I've done more conventional than I was doing. And I think it in turn helped my sumo more than I was. My coach told me it would, but my brain's like, well, it's not going to help if I'm laid out in bed. And I have to admit, it did help. Because it took it from that low fours that it seemed like forever. Getting to that 315 felt like forever, like my entire bodybuilding time. The 405 was probably another 3 to 4 years, probably 3. So, and now 2 years, been chipping between that 4 and 5. But I feel like the 4 to the 5 has come quicker than the 3 to the 4 did.
Oh, I can see that.
That's why I kind of think the conventional bled over into it.
But you also have even greater foundation at that point. When you're going from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 is still early years, if you will, except for those rare birds that just jump out of the gate. But now you're 17 years in. I mean, that's a good long haul. You've got a solid foundation, and to be doing that again at 60 just blows me away. But it gives me hope also, except I'm 3 years to 60, so I'm still not going to be doing it. But the 17-year portion, I'm not that many years in, so perhaps mine will be 65.
Shoot for it, Chandler. Go.
There we go. We're going to shoot for it. So yeah, I think that gives other women hope too. looking at the trajectory of how long it takes to do this. And if you're doing something you love, then it really doesn't matter how long it takes. You just keep on
Exactly.
doing.
And that took me a little while to like understand that there was a point where I put a lot of pressure on myself of,
Uh-huh.
well, I'm getting older, I don't know how many more meets I can do, and blah, blah, blah,
I
blah,
have had
blah.
those thoughts as well.
And, my coach would be like, well, I don't either. I'm only, whatever he is, mid-30s. He's like, but, I could hurt my knee. He's had a bad knee injury. He's like, well, I could get hurt tomorrow, and my last one had been my last meet. Nobody
Yeah.
knows. And I'm like,
It's
all right,
true.
I need to think about it that way, that, as long as I'm taking care of myself and doing everything I can, I do think equipped makes it a little easier. Like I said, I think we have more patience as we get older,
Uh-huh.
and we're more willing to take the time on the technique, especially if we start seeing that it does something for us.
Yeah.
So I do think that helps. But then I look and like Ellen Stein and just won best lifter at 71 or 2, whatever Ellen is now, at USPA Nationals.
Wow.
And Debbie Dominga, who retired,
Yeah.
she's in her 60s, early 60s. She's about 2 years ahead of me, I think. But she's still out, going and doing some push pulls and stuff when you look. And she's, I think I saw a raw deadlift she did in the gym recently that was high 4s.
Yeah.
No, still.
That is so
Great.
impressive. And again, this older lady thing that we've got going here is just, I think, defying all of the stereotypes, if you will, that they
And I
have.
feel like women in general are doing a better job with it. I look around our gym, the older men have they're still in the gym and they're still training, but they're not wanting to compete. They're not,
Wow.
they're in the, and my husband's one of them. I can't possibly get on the platform until I can bench
Yes.
4 plates again. And I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
babe, you barely benched 4 plates in your, okay, you don't remember that, but okay, I think you got that once when you were 30 or something. But I do think
Well, I think they compare themselves not only to their younger selves, but to the younger lifters in general.
Now, yeah.
Perhaps more so than the older women, because many of the older women came to lifting as an older woman. So there's nothing to compare. There was no younger self that was doing all of these things. We were doing other things. And certainly we were, having families, kids, and work and everything else. And perhaps that's why older women are making such strides, is because once you get past that point, you have more time to do things.
Focus on yourself. You start to focus on yourself a lot more. And I mean, I think, Tommye, you said that we have more patience with our bodies.
Yes.
We're just doing it because we never got to do it. Like, I never got to do it when I was younger, and I wasn't an athlete, and now I'm like, what can I do?
And it feels good. I mean, it feels good to go into the gym and know that you know your way around it, and that you can
the confidence in the gym.
Put weight on your back or pick weight up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a big confidence boost. And I think once you feel it a few times, it's addictive to most people.
It's definitely addictive. It's been addictive for us since we started the pandemic home gym. It's really, now we get to buid a whole new gym as soon as we get this other house up to drain.
Get floodwaters gone.
Yeah, get the floodwaters in the basement gone.
Per se,
swimming pool, a recovery pool. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting all new gym. Yeah, the things that I can't fit in this house, like a leg press. I've wanted a leg press forever. The big pieces. We got 1,200 square feet of basement.
Wow,
that could be a gym. So, But anyway, back to you and back to.
I
Go ahead.
wanted to ask Tommye, so you've been lifting for 17 years, doing using the gym for 17 years. Did you ever have a point where you're like, I'm done? Like you just kind of didn't want to do it anymore, or that never came around, or you kind of you felt it, but you continued on and it was just like a little hump during that time.
Yeah, I probably more bodybuilding than I have powerlifting. Bodybuilding just, I guess it takes a toll because it really is 24/7 if you want to do it right. And it's subjective. So it's not like powerlifting, I either lifted that 200
Or you
pounds
don't.
or I didn't lift that 200 pounds. And you can argue depth and this and that, but more or less, it's, very objective. And you could prepare for a bodybuilding show and, go in and like look around and go, oh, I'm, the most shredded one here. And then they'd give it to someone who was just bigger. Or the next show, they'd go the opposite direction. And it would get really frustrating. And it's also hard to like look at yourself objectively. So like, you look in the mirror and I think women tend to look in the mirror and go, oh no, this doesn't look right. And this doesn't look, we obsess over the negatives. I think
Already, and then if you add bodybuilding.
do think that they're much bigger than they are usually.
Yeah.
So I think bodybuilding, there were a lot of lulls where I was just like, oh, do I really want to go into prep again? And like I said, the prep for the Masters Nationals was just, I was 6 weeks away, I guess, from Nationals when I switched. And I'd been dieting for 10 weeks, doing 2 hours of cardio a day, training. And I think I'd lost 4 pounds.
Which like my body.
I don't know what else to do. And, I had a coach at the time. I never found a really good bodybuilding coach that was an in-person one. So the online stuff, I don't know. It's hard for people to see in pictures and really pick it apart unless they're the really high level people. And then they're not in the gym to like correct your form or say, oh, we need to get this little striation here and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Powerlifting, there's been a couple of injuries. There's definitely been times where I've just been like, and bench is it. There'll just be a series of weeks of just horrible bench days. And I mean, I can remember probably a good month where I didn't have a successful bench in a shirt. And, I would just go into a meltdown in the middle of the night and tick off my coach, telling him, I'm just not going to bench. I'll just take the empty bar at a meet and I'll do the other 2 reps. And the most recent one was, I told him, I was like, all I care about is a 200-pound bench. If I get a 200-pound bench, I can still get a meet PR on the other 2, from the other 2 reps, a total PR. And so I went back to a single ply shirt this prep, and I'm actually writing my own programs now with him reviewing, and we do bench together every week and we do body work. Yesterday I brought him in for squat to work on the depth issue. But went back to single ply. It's easier. It is rougher feeling on the skin and the body. It cuts more than multiply does. But I went ahead and went back to a shirt that I hated when I first got it. But it's easier to manipulate. So I'm up to, I got to 215.
Wow.
I really thought I could get to 225 this week. I hope that didn't happen. But I think I gained by taking a step back, I have some clues of what to do if I decide to put a multiply one back on. I'm not sure I will. I may just stay in the single ply. I may buy a new one that's not as stretched out or is a little bit smaller because it's a little big on me.
Can you mix and match in a meet, single ply and multiply?
Yes. You can't. So if you do a single ply meet, everything's got to be single ply.
Okay.
But if you do a multiply meet, you can have single ply gear.
Oh,
because it's a lower level. So
okay.
presumably I'm benching less because I'm in a single fly shirt.
But
In my case, I'm not sure that that's true.
Yeah.
But if I was a good bencher, I'd be giving up something to do.
Okay.
There's the band shirts that are the unlimited division. They scare me.
What are they?
They are band shirts, is what they're called. They're basically, they've got some sort of rubberized material. So they're very easy to learn. At least this is what I'm told. And they're allowing people whose bodies aren't ready for it to bench more than I think is like a
They
safe
should.
idea. So you're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of snapped arms and stuff.
Oh.
particularly women.
wow.
But I mean, I get it. Like, there's women. I think Ashley, I think her last name. She's in New Zealand, I think. She's young and she's larger, but still she benched. I think, I'm trying to remember, and I'll get it wrong. It was either 600 or 700.
Wow.
Wow.
And a woman she used to train with us, and now she's married to the guy who owns F8, who came up with these shirts. I think she's like a 123er, and she's benched over 4.
Wow.
And it's just like,
I feel like
and my
both
coach
legs
even,
snapping.
who is a 800-pound plus bencher, he didn't want to get more. He's like, I don't want to hold 1,000 pounds over my face.
Yeah.
It's like 820.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the changes that's going on in equipped lifting. Is the addition of these unlimited shirts.
Interesting. Interesting.
I can see some injuries in that. I agree with you. I can see some injuries.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I mean, I get that things always progress and what have you. And now that it has its own category, they're not trying to mix it in with single ply or multi ply, or they're not supposed to. They are doing it somewhat as powerlifting. I don't really care because I don't tend to go into the unlimited division. But I do somewhat worry about injuries.
Yeah.
And bad ones.
Okay.
As an older woman, like, I don't know about y'all, but one of the things, more than tearing a rotator cuff or an ACL or something, breaking a bone worries me more than anything.
Yeah.
And like, I thought I had fractured my tibia last month. And I was just like terrified that would be it. You get a stress fracture, it's very hard to recover from.
It is.
Yeah.
At any age, and as we age, it's even worse for women. So, things like band shirts, they are not on my horizon.
Okay. Well, what would you, as we finish up, what would you tell other older women who are contemplating beginning a journey such as yours?
So find either the right coach or a right training group. So I think both do well. Training groups tend to be a little bit harder to find for most people.
Probably
but
for
I
older
think
women
at
in
least
general.
at a minimum, start with one of those two, an experienced training crew or an experienced coach, to get your basics down. And from there, you can do it on your own, or you can continue with them. I think, and it's not true for everyone who's older, but like you said, as our children leave the house and this and that, we tend to have a little more disposable income that used to go towards them. And that's how I can justify it. It's like, well, I'll just pay Daniel. I don't have to pay for my son to go do soccer camps and stuff, so I can do this. But I do think that that's important. And I think finding the group that works for you, or the person that works for you, it's worth spending the time, particularly on a coach, interviewing them and making sure personalities show.
Yeah.
I got lucky. My coach just almost like my son now. And we have personalities that meshed until we get to blow up. But pretty much we're very similar in nature. We've got another coach in our gym who's wonderful, but he's a rah-rah coach. He's like cheering and carrying on. It would drive me insane. I love him to death, but I don't want him for a coach. My coach is much
I've never had a
calmer,
rah-rah
quieter,
coach.
more reserved. It works better for me.
Well, that's good. So thank you, Tommye, for agreeing to sit here and chat with us for a second time, since I had some technical issues the first time. I really enjoyed learning about your training sessions. I think that's very important to know. To get to the level you're at is take some time, both in terms of years, but time in the gym. And so when we compare ourselves to other women, as we always do, we have to recognize where we are in the journey and what we are contributing to this journey. If we're only in the gym an hour, a couple days a week, then that is fantastic. But a 600-pound squat is probably not in the cards. But it may not be your goal. Maybe your goal is just to be able to get up and down from a chair, or to, pick up 50-pound bags of dog food and do other life things. And so it's important to understand what it takes to get where you want to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing, is knowing for yourself where it fits your life
Exactly.
and your own goals. I mean, I came from being an athlete, so I wanted something that was
Yes.
athletic endeavor. But not everyone does. And, we've got a woman in the gym, Karen's in her 70s. And all she wanted, we're a pretty hardcore gym. Karen came in. My husband was scared to death she was going to get hurt when she first came. And Karen was just like, no, I don't want to lift at the hospital with the old people. Karen was the first one. We had a hurricane, no power. Karen was the first one in there with her flashlight training. And she's been through breast cancer and everything, but she comes in and she does it literally for herself. She's our best example in the gym, with someone who is doing it just to make sure she can do the things she wants to in her 70s.
Absolutely. That's
And
wonderful.
those things have nothing to do with competing. They have to do with walking her dog,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, Laurie, you want to take us out?
All right. Well, thank you, Tommye, for hopping on with us today again, for the second time. But for everyone looking for where to find the Old Ladies Lift Facebook group, it's on Facebook, Old Ladies Lift, and you have to be 40 and over and a woman, and we still get those requests for all kinds of people who want to come and join the group. So if you want to see, or when you want to see, I should say when you want to see this episode of Old Ladies Lift, go ahead and go to YouTube, go to Old Ladies Lift, and you will see all the previous from season 1 and now season 2 of all the new episodes that are coming up. So get your shirts.
Yes, on oldladieslift.com. Can't forget the shirts. And I got a whole bunch of new cool ones that I'm really happy about. So you should check out the website. I did a whole bunch of designing lately.
Getting that. I'm like, Chandler's been busy.
I have been busy. I'm trying to build a new site though, but then the move has kind of taken my time has taken a hit on that. But yeah, join the website. Look for the official Instagram account, Old Ladies Lift Official on IG. Old Ladies Lift is my account, and it's just me lifting, so you can follow me there too. But I'm not competent enough to switch things around, so that's what we have, Old Ladies Lift Official. And as Larnie said, the Facebook group called Old Ladies Lift, everything's called Old Ladies Lift. So just look up Old Ladies Lift and like, subscribe, share, all of those things, buy a t-shirt, and hopefully we'll see you again in a couple weeks with another great episode of Old Ladies Lift Chat. Bye, everyone.
Hey,
Bye, everybody.